How wonderful to see all of you today. We're here so that we can support one another, so that we can listen for the presence of God and brace our feet against the rock of ages to swing this unwilling world around. I'd like us to listen now as a word from God comes to you in a very familiar poem. It comes from the first chapter of Genesis. Don't want you to take it any more or less seriously than you would take a poem as it touches our hearts.
In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, the darkness God called night, and there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be a dome in the midst of the waters. Let it separate the waters from the waters." So God made the dome and separated the waters that were under the dome from the waters that were above the dome. And it was so. God called the dome sky, and there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the sky be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together God called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth put forth vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit with the seed in it." And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind, and trees of every kind bearing fruit with the seed in it. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years, and let them be lights in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth." And it was so. God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. God set them in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day, over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. And God said, "Let the waters bring forth swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the dome of the sky." So God created the great sea monsters, and every living creature that moves, of every kind, with which the waters swarm, and every winged bird of every kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth." And there was evening, and there was morning, the fifth day. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures of every kind, cattle and creeping things, and wild animals of the earth of every kind." And it was so. God made the wild animals of the earth of every kind, and the cattle of every kind, and everything that creeps upon the ground of every kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over the wild animals of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created humankind in God's image. In the image of God, they were created, male and female. God created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and every other living creature that moves upon the earth." God said, "See, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food." And it was so. God saw everything that God had made, and indeed It was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all their multitude. And on the seventh day God finished the work that God had done, and rested on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. So God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because on it God rested from all the work God had done in creation.
Would you listen to a word from the Gospel of Matthew? You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under a bushel basket. Put it on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your heavenly parent. Amen. In James Baldwin's story, the club where Sonny was about to play was very dark, really like the rest of the life around him. But as the light pooled onto the bandstand and began to shimmer and glow, different colors adjusted and the music began to play, and Sonny's brother began to see some things clearly. He thought, most people don't really hear the music. What they do is they project their own evocations, their disappointments, their hopes, their loves onto the music, and then it passes. But the one who makes the music hears something entirely different. For that one is dealing with the roar rising from the void and imposing order on it as it hits the air. Baldwin's captured the quintessential creative moment. That moment when the chaos rises up and we place order on it, bring beauty in it. It is that very thing that this poem in Genesis is pointing to, that quintessential creative moment. When God deals with the roar rising from the void and imposes order on it as it hits the air. But there are preconditions for such moments. Things have to be falling apart. Chaos is descending on the world around us. That's a moment when God speaks the word and says, let there be light. There's also a moment where it's kind of a battle between, good and evil, love and fear, hope and despair. There's something going on in the heavens, so to speak, where there's a struggle. And that's a moment when the roar rises from the void and God imposes order on it as it hits the air. It was that way in Baldwin's world in Sonny's story. As he struggled with addiction because he was overwhelmed by a racist society, didn't have much of a chance, really. And he struggled as he started to play that music, struggled to bring something beautiful out of that moment. It was a pivotal moment, a moment that could have gone one way or another. Same goes for the axial age when this poem in Genesis was written. It was a time when empire power was rising on the earth, when tribal cultures were simply too small and being overwhelmed by larger entities that were defeating them, swallowing them up. Human life was not valued as it had been. Power was concentrated more and more in cities, and with it came plague and disease. With it came people who were pushed down, the unfairness, the stratification of society. Justice fell. It was a time of chaos, awaiting a creative moment. And wouldn't you say that's the way things are right now? We're living in a moment of chaos. All the systems that we've used that provide a foundation for our lives seem to be crumbling around us, changing quite dramatically. Our educational system, my goodness, how many of us have children or grandchildren that are no longer in school but trying to learn online? The disruption and the way it plays out in the stratification of our society, because some of us have the capacity to help our grandchildren, some of us have the technology, and some of us do not. And the way commerce is operating, most of us know people who run shops and stores, and we're wondering, will those things be available 2 months from now? Will those things falter and fold? Our economic system seems to be shaky. We're not sure what the future is going to bring. And the way we communicate has changed. I'm used to a world of hugs. I get to hug my wife, but I don't get to hug my grandson. The way we communicate is disrupted. And this is a moment, a pivotal moment, because when we come back from this moment, as we begin to emerge out of this crisis time, things will not be the same. And things can shift one way or another. And it's at moments like this, when the fear is fighting against the hope, when the creative potential for love is fighting against that constriction that keeps us wanting to control not only ourselves, but others around us. At that pivotal moment, that's when God says, let there be light. As the roar rises from the void, let there be light. And it's like the word calls across the ages, from the Big Bang to the life cycle of stars and galaxies, to the emergence of life and the development of life and that uneven development of human culture, to this moment as I look at you and I say to you, you are the light of the world. That's what creation does. It sets those things in motion, unfolds. You are the light of the world, with all the hues and the colors and the hope that comes with it. And in this pivotal moment, that is God's creative word, that you and I pour light into the world and shift that world, create a new world with greater justice and greater hope, moving away from fear and embracing the kind of life that loves and cares, instead of worrying about survival, worrying about living itself. And how will the world around us respond? It's exciting to be at a moment when we can reinvent the world, to be at a pivotal moment when God is saying, let there be light. It's exciting and it's terrifying. I mean, is it really up to us? Is it up to me? Is it up to you? No. It is God's creative word that is unfolding within us. It is God's love that is being expressed through us. You and I have the job to be faithful. Some of us have an opportunity to have an impact on the way education will look when we come out of this crisis, to rebuild, to shift, to find ways to have it be more just and more effective. Some of us can have an impact by our writing, by our influence, on the way we deal with politics and the way we deal with one another. And all of us have an opportunity to rethink the way we connect, the way we live together in community, the way we support one another. And as you and I shed light all around us, deal with the roar rising from the void, we are seeking to be faithful and express that creative love, shunning away the fear that would constrict us and keep this world in the place that it is. And you know, this is how it works in creation. Everybody does their part. It's God's word that's effective. You know, when biologists tell me that eyes evolved in a number of different places throughout the world at different times, just spontaneously at around the same time in different places. in the axial age, spontaneously around the world in different places as the empire powers were trying to take hold. That's the moment when prophets from the Hebrew prophets, when Confucius, when Buddha, when these axial religions started to develop and point the way towards a just and loving God. It's the movement of creation, the opening of God's creative power that happens within us, and you and I are a part of it. So we do our bit, expressing love and pulling away from fear, loving and caring for those that are around us. And this love is unfolding the next beautiful thing in everyone's life. The roar is indeed rising from the void. You and I can deal with that by imposing order on it as it hits the air, because the creative love of God is shining through us. Let your light in all its hues shine all around you.